Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, what a surprise, hey? The Pikachu EX from Surging Sparks. Who would have thought? And look, I'll get to this card in a second, but before we do so, I just wanted to run through the normal equation that, and look, by normal I mean 90% of the time. It's like the 90-10 rule. We talk about that in sales a fair bit, but by 90-10, what I mean, 90% of cards, when a set first comes out, it's inevitable. More and more supply gets open because people are so excited to rip new Pokemon card sets. More supply comes out, so there's more singles on the market as more and more product gets ripped. It's a very, very simple equation, isn't it? We all know that when singles first get released, people want to get their hands on the hits straight away, so they're willing to pay a premium for that. And this is what normally happens. Just to run you through a fair few of the hits from Surging Sparks, hits like Hydreigon, hits like Lysia's Appeal, what else? The Alolan Executor, for example. These are all hits from Surging Sparks, and the trend you can see on here is exactly what normally happens to singles when they first come out. And I know it's barely been out for very long at all. Like, it's only been out for like a week, but look at the price drop straight down. That's generally what happens. First day it comes out, people want to get all the hits, so they buy them off eBay as soon as they go up there, or TCG Player, or wherever it might be. And as time goes on and more supply hits and more gets ripped, we get a price correction until it finds, I suppose, an equilibrium where supply equals demand, so to speak. That's the price, the market price that it arrives at. The Pikachu, on the other hand, is just, have a look at this graph for argument's sake. Look at the Pikachu. It's done the complete opposite. And again, this is the 90-10 rule. Not every card's going to come out and go straight down. And I suppose the big question is, why? Why does this happen on that 10% of cards? Because a somewhat similar thing happened, and not to this degree and not as quickly as this, but a somewhat similar thing happened with the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. And I think this has shocked a lot of people. I think, the price that Pikachu's risen to so rapidly and has achieved and is constantly getting sales out over the last few days has really, really surprised people. It certainly surprised me. My take on the card, and I think I might have even mentioned this in a couple of videos on Surging Sparks a little bit prior to release when I was talking about the top hits inside the card, inside the set. I said, look, Pikachu is going to be number one. Then we're going to have Latias and Lysia's Appeal, of course, up there. And then, Hydra and etc. will be a little bit below that. And I made some comments like, I wouldn't be surprised if Pikachu's a $300 card, like it comes out of the gate at $300. I wouldn't be surprised if Latias and Lysia's Appeal are, somewhere between $100 and $200 a card. And, generally speaking, most of those predictions have somewhat become true. But the Pikachu, on the other hand, I thought it might be a $300 card, and I thought, maybe it could, jump up due to demand straight away to 350, but to get to the place it's at, well, like it's at $600, and there's been sales above that, and it's like, where's this card going to stop? When's it going to come back to Earth? Is this reminiscent of Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies? Does the rest of Surging Sparks hits with the Latias and Lysia's Appeal give it enough weight to take it into some sort of territory or even close to Evolving Skies territory? They're all pretty big questions, none of which I'm sort of answering on this video, but I just wanted to get on to Pikachu for a second and maybe a couple of correlations or lack of with Evolving Skies hits. So the first things first, I think there's a few reasons that a card will do this. Maybe a surprise in pull rates. A lot of the time when the first day a set comes out, no one knows pull rates. Is Pikachu going to be 1 in 300? Is it going to be 1 in 1,000? Is it going to be 1 in 2,000? No one really knows. And I think, the data from TCG Player opening over 8,000 packs shows that it's roughly about 1 in just under 1,000 packs to pull any specific special illustration rare from Surging Sparks. Now, look, I don't think they seed illustration rares or special illustration rares anymore, like one card any more than another. I think, if you had a data sample size of opening 5,000 packs or 10,000 packs, sometimes you're just going to get lucky and pull more. It's not like there's more Latiases than there are Pikachus. I would highly doubt that would be the case. I think we can almost safely work off the fact that all of them are printed on an extremely similar playing field. So any specific SIR, 1 in 1,000 packs, or it's 1 in 996 to be exact off TCG's data of 8,000 packs. So what that tells us is Pikachu It's going to take you pretty much bang on 1,000 packs to pull a Pikachu EX. So that's one reason, and I want to expand on that a bit more in a second. Second reason, obviously, popularity of the Pokemon. I think the artwork was a little bit polarizing as well. This might be the third reason, but it's one of those things that seems to be growing on people a little bit. Sometimes when, and I'm in the car industry, sometimes when a new car comes out, it's quite polarizing. People don't know whether they like it or not. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to grow on people. And then all of a sudden they go, you know what, that's a really nice looking car. And I think we can say the same about Pikachu. When it first came out and images have got leaked, everyone was like, well, they could have done a bit more, couldn't they? But now that it's come out, particularly with this new rainbow border, the crown doesn't look quite as dorky as maybe it could have. And a lot of people are starting to go, well, you know what, it's not too bad a card. And the fact that it's shooting up in price probably helps that scenario as well. But I wanted to go back, before I touch on another point, I wanted to go back to the pull rate. So 1 in 1,000, right? If we look at Evolving Skies, for argument's sake, I'm not comparing directly Surging Sparks to Evolving Skies, but just to make a little bit of a comparison here, any specific alternate art, these aren't alternate art VMAXs, so just alternate art, had roughly the same pull rates as any specific SIR and Surging Sparks. So we're talking Rayquaza V, Dragonite V, Umbreon V, for argument's sake, roughly the same pull rates. To pull a VMAX alt art though, it was very close to 1 in 2,000 packs to get the big dogs, the Leafeon VMAX, the Rayquaza VMAX, the Glaceon VMAX, and most importantly, the Umbreon VMAX, nearly 1 in 2,000 packs. So it's almost double. It's double as hard to pull one of the big hits from Evolving Skies as what it is from Surging Sparks. So will that impact it? Will that mean that Pikachu can hang on at the price it can hang on at? Because it seems like there should be more supply. Now, the other point that I wanted to touch on when it comes to this Pikachu EX is where it's going to sit from a grading perspective. If we take the Umbreon, for example, from Evolving Skies, there's about a 62% conversion rate from mint raw copy to PSA 10. And that's why you don't see a great deal of discrepancy between a raw price and a PSA 10 price. Certainly not the same discrepancy you see in vintage card examples like PSA 10 Charizard, first edition, and mint raw copy of PSA 10 of a base set first edition Charizard. What's Pikachu EX going to grade like? We all know Scarlet and Violet grading hasn't been fantastic when it comes to, of course, assessing the print quality, centering, edges, surface, corners, etc. They haven't been providing the best ratio return, and that doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. Like, the harder it is to grade, generally the more it's worth as a PSA 10 versus a raw copy because it's harder to achieve. Look at Magikarp. Magikarp from Paldea Evolved is the best example. It is performing very low. I think I worked it out like 28% conversion or 26% conversion rate from mint raw copy to PSA 10, hence why the PSA 10 is going for such big dollars. Is Pikachu, that's one piece of information that we really, I guess, have left to find out on this card, is the conversion rate. Let's say it's converting at 50%. What's that going to mean for the PSA 10 price? But let's say there's terrible print quality in Surging Sparks and it's converting at 30%. Does that make it a bigger chase? Because then you can do the grading play and go to a PSA 10. Let's say a PSA 10 is, 30% conversion rate, and all of a sudden this $600 raw card is worth $2,000 or $2,500 as a PSA 10 because it's so damn hard to grade. Is that just going to add more fuel to the fire? Is that going to bump up raw prices even more? Is that going to bump up and help people with the chase? And on that point, when it comes to grading, it just seems like the natural demand we have at the moment, people get very scared off and say, it's way overprinted and PSA populations are way too high. And I just don't know if that's exactly the right sort of sentiment to hold towards it, because there's just so much natural demand for these modern chase cards. They wouldn't be holding the price they'd be holding if they had populations that some of them have. Like, again, on Umbreon VMAX, the PSA 10 population is massive. Like, for any stretch of the imagination, there shouldn't be any reason why that card holds the price that it holds as a PSA 10 unless there's just some serious natural demand for it. People wanting it in their collection, locking it up and saying, I've got a small slice of modern Pokemon card history in a PSA 10 Umbreon VMAX. And I'm not here just to pump up Pikachu's tyres because it's completely surprised me to the position that it's got to so quickly. But I guess it could follow in the same vein. What if this is the chase card from the Sword and Shield Scarlet and Violet? What if this is, just shows again, all my videos are unedited. What if this is the chase card from Scarlet and Violet? And who knows, maybe it's going to be the Umbreon from Prismatic Evolutions. Maybe Umbreon will steal the show again and be the #1 chase card from Scarlet and Violet. But what if it's the Pikachu? What if it's a Pikachu EX from Surging Sparks? And, you know, people wanting to lock that away as a modern Pikachu chase card in a PSA 10, think of the demand that that's going to add to it as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how this Pikachu card plays out. Before I finalize the video though, I've got on a bit of a ramble with this Pikachu because it shocked me so much. I wanted to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, which is Shiny. If you don't have the app, please download it. If you do have the app, please update it. It is a great app for tracking your whole singles and sealed TCG collection. Obviously, we're focusing on Pokemon here. You can add in any single, any sealed product. It's going to give you up-to-date data that resets daily. Also, the new feature, when you go to the search tab, you can now filter by set. And with Pokemon, it'll go from the newest set to the oldest. When you're in the set, you can go price, high to low. So you can see the top chasers inside the set. It'll give you percentage gains and losses, hopefully just gains, particularly if you're somewhat listening to my advice. Great app, link in the description to download it. Anyway, I think that just about summarizes up on Pikachu. Let's see where it gets to. Hey, I'm Michael, this is PokeOz, and I'll catch everyone next time.